Hello, CinSanity! Welcome to episode 5, part 2 of this podcast. Again, we have special guest Andrew Abbott with us today talking about fantasy football. We're going to start off with impact of rookie wide receivers drafted in round 1 of the NFL draft. What are they going to do in fantasy land? Then we're going to slide into a couple of quarterbacks drafted in the NFL draft this year and see what they're going to do, what impact they may have. Then from there, we're going to go into some sleeper picks. We're going to go into Brandon Ayuk and Derrick Henry. How are they going to do this year? We're going to talk about some busts. And one final task, we have an all-star roster compiled, and we are going to decide which 2 players should be franchised off said roster in a franchise league. So how about that, Redlegs fans? What do you say we get this thing started?
I just sold out to the perfect condition. Coming alive. Heat of the night. Now is the time. Don't try to hide. 'Cause I'm gonna harm you like an animal.
Hey, somebody's got a birthday coming up?
I do, yeah.
And the whole family from Wisconsin will be there, right?
What is it, like 20-something people?
Yeah, I think final count was like 22, 23 that were going to be there, something like that.
Well, at least you're loved.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
I'm lucky if I get a half dozen. So to talk about first round wide receivers, there were a handful that were drafted this year. Are you expecting any of them to have an impact? And if so, which ones?
I really think the only one that does it for me is going to be Harrison Jr. I was looking at Odunze as well. There's just a lot of if factors on Odunze. How good is Williams going to be in the NFL? If he translates very well, then he could be a wide receiver 1 for them. I think you also have Keenan Allen, who's going to take some of his targets away as well. So I think for me personally, I'm going to say Harrison Jr. because he jumps in and is going to be getting a lot of targets. He's a proven track record. He's consistent. At least, obviously he's got to stay healthy. Kyler Murray is going to give him targets. I think he's going to produce the best out of all 3 of them that were drafted.
In what round would you draft him?
I don't know. I think he's going to go late. I would say probably 7 to 10.
But you got to remember, they also have DJ Moore, the Bears.
Yeah, I know. So, that's another reason Odunze's could be he could be really good, or they could share targets and he could be mediocre. So,
well, let's throw on Keenan Allen, who is a target hog.
that he is. I had Keenan Allen last year. He did me a lot of favors.
You and me both, buddy.
How about the rookie receiver for the Giants?
Neighbors, he's good. I mean, the Giants just scare me. I don't know what it is about the Giants. Daniel Jones, I thought that was a mistake picked by them all these years ago.
How can you make a mistake drafting a kid from Duke?
Yeah, I mean, you made a mistake. Same thing with the Steelers or the Bears and Trubisky the other year. They missed completely on that one. So, yeah, he's got the talent to be good. It's going to revolve all around the QB, getting them the targets, getting them the share. He's going to get open. He's got the beast in him to do it. It's going to have to be the QB that's going to have to help him out in order for him to produce a lot.
Well, the problem is that Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones, he's better at running the football than he is passing, and he's not known as a running quarterback, and he's a white guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's to your point. That's what scares me. I'm like, well, when he gets in trouble, he's not going to stick in the pocket and find an open receiver. He's going to start running.
No, he's not a pocket pass. He's not a pressure passer either. So it is scary. There's too many factors for me to, I think, take it. I mean, maybe if he's sitting around later in the draft, you take him just on a fly, but I don't think there's enough good on that side to actually take him with an important pick.
Would you take him as a wide receiver 3?
I would do it. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, I think in his situation, he has a little higher ceiling.
Yeah, he could blow up, but then again, he could not produce at all. So I would love to have him as a wide receiver 4 instead of a 3, but I think if the right draft and you're limited on picks, I think wide receiver 3 he'd be fine at.
All right. Well, while we're on the topic of rookies, which rookie QB you think you have a bigger impact in 2024, Williams or McCarthy?
I'm going to say Williams just because of how he produced in college. Won the Heisman. He did transfer and he did play well at USC. He's a pass first guy, so he's going to get his options. He will run when he has to, but he's a pass first guy. But he's drafted to a doomed franchise in the past. Like the QB play in Chicago has been atrocious for the last 5 to 10 years, maybe even more than that. Like we said before, though, he does have the veteran factors of Keenan Allen. He's got DJ Moore. He's got a Doomsday, so he's got some weapons. The only thing that J.J. McCarthy, I think, is good at is that he's a proven winner. He hasn't lost at all pretty much in college. So is he going to be able to take that coordinator from the Vikings, use Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and TJ Hockenson to his advantage? I think so, but I don't think it's going to be at the level that Williams can do this year.
Well, Trevor Lawrence was a winner in high school and college, never lost. Look where he's at right now. I mean, he's all right. It's not great.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy is not Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at his college stats, and I'm like, wow. And he was a first-round pick?
Yeah, that's when they talked about him sliding into like the top 10, the top 8 picks, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
I think if you're going to draft a rookie QB as a starter, you're going to have to draft a backup quarterback earlier than you normally might.
I would agree.
Do you have any sleepers for us?
Okay, so I did this in like kind of tiers. I went off of like tier 1 is going to be like they've had production in the past, and I think they're going to have more production. And then tier 2 gets like they were injured, they'll get more time and whatnot. My biggest sleeper this year, I think, is going to be Josh Jacobs on the Packers. It was a one-man show at running back last year. When Aaron Jones was hurt, A.J. Dillon couldn't carry the ball for more than 2 yards before getting tackled to the ground. And he's supposed to be the power back. I think Josh Jacobs coming over, having the line that the Packers have, will be able to lead, will be able to score a lot of touchdowns. And he's going to get his carries. I mean, even with the Raiders, he's getting 20 to 30 carries at the game. And the other guy that I have him at receiver is Pittman. I think if Anthony Richardson takes the next step, Pittman, he's already a bona fide wide receiver 1, but I think he could be top 3, top 4 in the league.
I got one that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion for a sleeper. Najee Harris. And here's why. He's been solid, but he hasn't had that burst of speed. Apparently, this offseason, he went on a diet and he's lost some weight to try to get that burst of speed. So, should he get that burst of speed? I think Najee Harris could be a top 5 running back.
Did he lose the weight to get burst of speed, or did he lose the weight to keep his job?
I don't know. It's not as bad as Cheeseburger Eddie from the Packers back in the day.
And that man was nasty at his job. I got a question for you, Clayton. This one might be up your alley on sleepers. I had in here circled a question mark on my list as a number 3. I had Travis Etienne Jr. for the Jaguars. What do you think on that one?
Would you call him a sleeper after last year, though? I mean, his numbers last year compared to the year before, they went way up.
He was injured too, mind you. So
yeah,
that's the thing about sleepers, because I'm like, if he plays a full season, he is a tier 3 running back on fantasy lists. Like he's a 2nd to 3rd round RB2 pick. So is he a sleeper? Like he could be your RB1 on your team.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah, I'd call him a sleeper, especially if Lawrence gets in trouble and just starts doing check down passes to him. Because I mean, the guys
which we all know can
catch and run. Yep.
Well,
because they don't have Calvin Ridley anymore either.
Nope.
So there's some ball share that can go to him.
That's right.
Well, I think the other advantage he has is there's really not a strong running back two in their running back room.
Yep, no RBBC.
What other breakouts might you have for us?
So ETN was on my list for sure. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I have Rashad White from Tampa Bay as being a candidate for a supreme breakout this year. Baker got his contract. Rashad White, I remember watching him play when Tom Brady was on the Buccaneers, and he was producing then. He's a tough running back. He's going to get his carries. I think that he starts the full season, no injuries, stays healthy. I think he's going to break out. And then on here, I took kind of a stab in the dark. I know we talked about him earlier, but Anthony Richardson, I think he could be a lot better this year. He had a chance to find out what the league's like. He's got Pittman there. Hopefully the pieces start to fall and he starts to get more comfortable. We know what kind of talent he had in college, so hopefully that translates this year. And, I'm willing to say that one's probably not going to be one that a lot of people will agree on, but I think that if all the things go right for him and he starts playing how he was playing in college, I think he could have a really good season.
Oh, here's one for you. Drake London, now that he's got Kirk Cousins.
And Atlanta, that's a good one. That's a good one. He was okay last year, so hopefully the supreme upgrade at QB will help him out.
Well, I mean, Cousins has two people to throw to, Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So
yeah, you're not wrong. Bijan.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two to ask you about. And the reason I'm asking is because in an overall draft ranking, I've seen them ranked from 15th to 35th. Ayuk and Derrick Henry.
So I actually, funny thing, I actually have Brandon Ayuk written on my list right here under breakouts. Deebo Samuel is a dog on that team. But we all saw when Deebo Samuel was hurt what Brandon Ayuk could do and what he did do, honestly. He's got everything that you look for in a receiver, and, the QB play has been a lot better for San Fran. I know they came up short and whatnot, but, as I mentioned, when Deebo was hurt, he played astronomically well for them. And I think that should tell them that, hey, he might be a little better than, either they don't see that or, teams should definitely take him as a flyer. And I know 15 to 35th is, I think about 20 is about where he's going to fall. And then who was the other one you said?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. New team, Derrick Henry. Oh, man. The king.
And it makes it a different dynamic having Lamar as your quarterback.
Yeah, it does. Takes away from some of the running, too, which is why.
It makes it a different dynamic having offensive talent around you.
That's also true. He's not reliant so much. He won't have to single-handedly win the game, because JC doesn't have 3 ACL tears in 1 year or something like that. That is a really good one to think about too. Oh man, Clayton, what you got on that? I need to think about what I'm going to say to this.
I was pondering that earlier this morning, to be honest with you. I think it could aid in some long touchdowns because they're worried about Lamar, and then you give it to Henry, and instead of the guy breaking your ankles, you got the guy breaking your neck and your sternum.
Yeah. I honestly, first thought that came to my head when Derrick Henry went there was their offensive production is going to go up. Those third and shorts that you're seeing all these teams that are doing the tush push and all that, it's going to be a handoff, HB run right up the middle with Derrick Henry. 3rd and 1, I'm coming right at you. So I think the offensive production is going to go up, even though, he might be on the decline of his career. So, yeah, I'll agree. I kind of like that, because that gets you thinking. I think it definitely is worth the pick, though, for sure.
thing I factor in on Derrick Henry is twofold. One is, as wide receivers go, they don't have a strong or deep wide receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
And two is, while I haven't verified this in other podcasts, which I've listened, it's my understanding that Tennessee had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL last year. And Baltimore historically has an above average offensive line.
Tennessee was 25th, I think, or something like that. They were like really like bottom tier for sure. It's definitely an upgrade, no line in Baltimore.
All right. Clock's starting to run out. I want each of you to give me one bust.
Chris Olave. I don't see him putting up big numbers this year. I know he's got Derek Carr. I know he's played well, but I don't see it. I just personally don't see it. I mean, he's had 2 seasons of okay play. You know, he's had a few breakout games, but I think he's going to be kind of like wide receiver 10 to 15 this year.
I'm going to go with one that will probably surprise you both, but I am not high on Kyren Williams. He's had injuries in the past. He's slight of frame, and they like to throw the ball a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they like pushing other running backs in whenever they see fit.
They had some running backs a couple years ago that came out of the woodworks.
All right. Based off of last year's numbers, because they were pretty high, I'm going with Mostert. He's a bust. That ain't happening again.
You think Achane takes over?
I just don't think most of his production came off the touchdowns. Like, look at his numbers in previous years. And he was with San Francisco, which was good at running the ball. Like, he went off the reservation last year. There's no way he puts up those numbers again. I'm just not seeing it.
I think he had more touchdowns last year than he had his entire career going into last year.
And if that's the case, he definitely is not doing that again.
Yeah, that's an easy call on the bust.
That's an easy answer. That's a flop answer. Come on.
None of you said it.
All right, I'll ask the two of you. Can you trust anyone from the Browns or the Raiders?
Clayton, go ahead. I got some thoughts on this.
I would say I could trust Amari Cooper just because he's Amari Cooper. Chubbs, I'd say yes, but injuries seem to be a problem, so it's leaning towards a no. Outside of that, like, I'm not drafting Deshaun Watson, I can tell you that. And I don't even know who else they have outside of the two I mentioned already, Cooper and Chubbs. Raiders, you might be able to trust Adams, but I still don't think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Not with the quarterback they got. They don't have a running back. I mean, there's nobody there. It's a dead zone. It's the desert, man.
Yeah. Raiders, about the only thing that I played on the Raiders last year was their defense. That's about the only thing that I trusted last year. Devontae Adams, when he was on the Packers, was great. Ever since Carr has left, he hasn't been getting the number of touches and whatnot. And then the Browns, I've drafted Chubb the last few years as kind of like an RB2, RB3 flex kind of guy. He's been okay, but as you said, the injuries kept him limited. Watson, I would not draft him either, but he has played okay. I don't know if that warrants a trust, but you know, Amari Cooper, if we're going to trust Amari Cooper, then we kind of have to lean on Deshaun a little bit. Because you got to trust Deshaun to get Amari Cooper some targets and receptions and whatnot. You know, Amari Cooper last year, as you would know, would have games of 4 catches, and then he'd have games of 13. So it's very few and far between with him, I think. But I do agree. I would trust Amari above all else on the Browns.
So you're saying he's streaky?
He's very streaky. Very streaky. I had him at flex last year.
All right, I got a selfish question for you, Andrew.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Had to franchise 2 players going into the season off this roster. Mahomes, Stroud, Gibbs, Hall, Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, and Puka Nacua, as well as Sam Laporta. What 2 would you take?
That's the dumbest roster I've ever heard of.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Read me the running backs one more time, if you don't mind.
Gibbs, Hall, and Bijan Robinson.
All right, so starting off, I'm going CJ Stroud as the first player. What he did last year in Houston with what he had, I think Nico Collins was his wide receiver 1 or something like that last year. Just being able to turn it around. As we all know, Houston has been awful in the past. So being able to turn it around and produce first year out was big for me. And I think he's going to have a great future. And I think he's going to be one of the best QBs in the league for a while. I'm split decision on the second one. I really want to say Bijan. But part of me is saying follow the Chiefs mold and take Laporta at tight end as my franchise. So there's cases for both. And I think at the end of the day, with the way that tight ends have been going, I think I'm going to take Laporta. One, because of the production last year was very good. And I think that even with Jared Goff, who is a good QB, I think if you increase the QB by the slightest of margins to a better QB, like, I don't know, it'd be the same thing as Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. That's the way that I'm looking at kind of CJ Stroud and Laporta. And then you just build around them. So I think I'd start with those two.
Interesting. I thought for sure you were going to go with one of the running backs.
I want to, but running backs in the NFL have a short tenure, as we know. There's not really, they don't really stay around for a long time. They have a couple years of great production unless you're one of the, Hall of Famers, obviously. So.
Fair point. All right. Well, I think we're out of time. You got to get to the park. I do have one last question for you to close this out.
What you got?
You start tomorrow, correct?
I do.
Where are you getting your sub sandwich from?
Let's see. I don't know, actually. I'm trying to adventure out a little bit and see. I had the club from the diner from you guys. Appreciate that. That opened my knowledge to that place. I could go normal chain, but I'm going to take a drive maybe down into Florence or something in the morning and see what I can find down there, if there's anything around there.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah, what you got?
You ever been to Penn Station?
No, I have not.
Chicken teriyaki with sauteed mushrooms and onions from Penn Station.
Up there on your list?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'll check it out. I'll text you how it goes.
I have a game day routine now when you pitch as well. I have to go to the only sports bar in town, Doc's.
Oh.
They're always gracious enough to put the Reds game on for me.
There we go. My mom takes fireball shots when I pitch to calm her down. So
now that's pretty serious.
She gets more nervous watching me on TV than in person. And I think when I debuted last year, she started that trend. It was like, I need to calm down. And I was like, well, the only way that I calm down is I just take a shot. And then you just kind of chill out. And she started to do it. So it's been going strong.
I'm thinking you were taking some of those shots when you saw Deshaun Watson and thought he was performing well.
Well is not good in fantasy. When I say well, it does not mean good. It means well. It means good enough above the barrel scrape.
I'd have meant you were reaching for a well drink.
Pretty much with him, yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, we appreciate your time.
Absolutely, guys. Enjoy your day.
And I got to say, one last thing. You might study this more than my dad does.
I looked into some stuff. It's a little too early for me, but like we said, this is a way too early podcast. So
that's right.
I'm not knee deep in the stats yet, but if you need me, find me 2 weeks out and I'll have a whole binder full of stats for you.
I will be looking you up come late August. We have it on.
There we go.
All right, buddy. We'll see you later. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, guys. See you.
So, Andrew's game day routine is he gets a sub when he pitches. We're going to start a little segment here that's going to be our cooking/backyard barbecue segment. It so happens tonight I'm going to make my own version of a sub. I don't know if you call it a sub, but we're going to do Philly cheesesteaks in my house, which I don't know if you're a fan of Philly cheesesteaks. I don't like it with the melted cheese or the liquid cheese. I like it with just straight provolone. But man, is it good. You're missing out tonight, Big Papa. You get some sirloin steak, you slice it thin, you saute it in the skillet with the garlic salt, then you separate it into sandwich-sized portions in the skillet, and you put some provolone cheese on top, let that melt, scoop it up, put it in your hoagie roll, put some sauteed mushrooms and onions on top, and you got the best Philly cheesesteak going right at home. So there you go. There's a game day recipe for all you folks out there.
Are the onions caramelized?
Oh, yeah, that's why I said sauteed. You'll see. We're going to film a little video of it, and we're going to post it online so y'all can watch it and follow along if you decide to cook it at home yourselves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to both parts of this week's episode of the podcast. We had a lot of fun with Andrew, as we all love fantasy football. Coming next week, though, we will be recording in Chicago at Industry Ale's Brew Pub, as we will be in town to catch a Reds versus Cubs game at Wrigley Field. Graham Ashcraft's going to be on with us again. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball. He's actually got some interesting trivia questions that kind of give an inside look to the life of an MLB player. We're going to talk some about hunting. Graham and I actually have a side bet going on related to that, so we're going to get into that, and we're going to try some delicious food from Industry Ales. So, tune in next week. It's going to be another good one. Until then, whatever. See y'all later.